Hey everyone, Bob here, MFJ-4230MVP. Today on HOA Ham, we're going to talk about the MFJ-4230MVP 30 amp switching power supply. And what you see on the screen right now is as exciting as it should ever get. Why did I choose this specific power supply, and why do I still recommend it to ham radio operators today? A quick look at the package itself tells half the story, and then we'll take a tour around the unit and all of its features. I run 100 watts on my FT991A and a lot of accessories in the shack, and this perfectly suits all of those power requirements. Of course, there are many features you should consider when deciding what power supply you should choose, and we'll talk about many of them when we look directly at the unit. What I want to point out to you right now is this one right here. 1 year, no matter what warranty, backed by MFJ Enterprises. Let's start at the back of the unit and work forward. We have a receptacle for our power cord, which comes with the unit, and then we have a switch to go from 120 to 240 volts AC, which will likely be triggered correctly based on where your unit ships from to your QTH. The unit can power 30 amp surge or 25 amp continuous draw. We have 2 sets of power poles on the back, which you could go directly to your equipment, or you could go into a power distribution block. What sold me on this unit is precisely what you see next. Size. This thing is tiny. It's just a very small and compact power supply. So when I first moved into my QTH and started with a very modest shack, this fit perfectly into the very limited space that I had available to it. So what do we have on the front side? Obviously, we have our on-off rocker switch. We have a push button switch for the meter to take us between amps and volts, and I'll demonstrate that with my equipment. And then we have a knob to vary the output of the voltage if that is necessary for the equipment that you're operating. And here would be one of the more unique features of this particular power supply. If for some reason you put this in a location in your shack and you pulled power out of your power poles in the back and it works for all of your gear, and then later on you need to pull some extra power and you don't have access to the back side, what are you going to do? Well, hopefully you've installed an MFJ distribution block so you have plenty of power poles available with some extra power. But if not, you've got some extra power here on the front of this unit. And that's one of the main upgrades of this particular power supply over similar units of size and capability. Before we get over to the 991A and show you how to change between amps and volts on the meter, let's just see what the variability is on the voltage here with this dial. And we're going to use our Kaiweets multimeter here. Always keep it face down so that you don't damage the beautiful screen on that KM601. It's auto sensing, which is one of my favorite features on this particular multimeter. And when you first turn it on, it tells you where to insert the probes, so you don't have to be that smart to use this. Perfect for me. All right, get our protective caps off of here. Now, let's make sure we're not touching our probes when we insert them here. And we're going to get a reading at 13.74. So as we adjust the voltage, let's go down first. You can see that indeed the voltage is changing. And now let's take the voltage up beyond the 13.8 that we normally like to see on our radios. And you can see on our multimeter that we're good to go. What about if we look directly at that meter through one of the different cameras that I have here? Let me go ahead and give you a different look. Then here we are with my over-the-shoulder cam. Watch the meter, and right now it's set to volts. So you can see that the meter is adjusting as I'm turning the knob. So that's the control that you have if you have a piece of gear that requires some variation in volts. It's built into the unit itself. All right, let's get a look at this switch that lets us go between amps and volts. So here's our power switch. You can see the 991 immediately turns on. Now, I'm going to go ahead, let's see if there's anybody out here. Let's get away from anyone activating or working. Is this frequency in use? Is this frequency in use? KD4BMG. All right, I wasn't paying attention to the meter. I was watching what was going on my screen. Let's zoom in on the meter And then you'll watch me do something very similar. Well, I hear somebody, so I'll move away from them. All right, that's about as good as I'm going to be able to get for you. You can see that I automatically come in at volts. It's set to 13.8. And that's not going to move as I communicate on the radio. Let me change frequencies. KD4BMG is this frequency in use. All right, and you see that nothing is changing on the meter as far as voltage. Let's go over to amperage. And you can see the meter has dropped. So if you wanted to watch your amperage and see where you peak at with your equipment to understand the available capacity on this, if you were adding something, this could be one of the ways that you would do it. KD4BMG. KD4BMG is this frequency in use. Testing, no response required. A power supply is a foundational piece of gear for every ham shack, so make a good choice. If you're constantly pushing buttons and turning dials, then perhaps you didn't make a good choice to begin with. So go with someone that's reputable. I've had fantastic success with this MFJ unit. I can't be happier with it. So, great unit. I like all the features that it has. I like its size. It's small enough to go portable with me if I ever had the need to do so, but it's strong enough and capable enough to work and power my entire shack. Hope you found this useful, friend. I'll talk to you soon. 73.